Liberty Nation with Tim Donner.
And we are back on our special year-end edition of Liberty Nation Radio. Tim Donner with Lisa Donner, editor-in-chief of LibertyNation.com, a fast-growing, explosively growing website, and LibertyNation.com legal affairs editor and guardian of individual liberty, Scott Cosenza, and we'll get to him with the victories and defeats for individual liberty in 2019. But of course, so much of the energy behind this impeachment push has come from the media. I've said to you, Scott, I'll say it to you too, Lisa, this impeachment could not have happened without a compliant media that was carrying the water for Democrats. I'm just picked one soundbite that's emblematic of this. This is F. Chuck Todd of Meet the Press, NBC.
I don't say this lightly, but let's be frank, a national nightmare is upon us. The basic rules of our democracy are under attack from the president. We begin tonight with a series of admissions by the president that all but assures his impeachment in the House of Representatives. It's a moment of truth for Republicans, and they've been largely silent on what we've seen from the president. Today, he publicly called on two foreign governments to interfere in the presidential election by investigating his chief 2020 political rival.
So there you go. I mean, there's the hysteria. A national nightmare is upon us.
All right, but Chuck Todd, all you need to know about Chuck Todd is the same thing you know about George Stephanopoulos. These are Democratic operatives. These are not journalists. These are Democratic operatives with a big microphone.
What it is the accumulation of the thousands and thousands of messages. Like you could take Chuck Todd away from it, but if you want to sell soap, you put a soap ad on every 20 minutes. You're going to increase soap sales, and that's what these anti-Trump ads have been. From every newscast, from the local news to the national news, they're selling that impeachment and have been for years.
Lest we forget, there is a presidential race.
I did forget for a second.
Yeah, it's easy to forget with impeachment and the IG report and everything else. But I thought I would pick out a single soundbite to demonstrate or exemplify the basic insanity of the Democratic debates. This isn't actually from a debate. This is actually an interview with the dearly departed Beto O'Rourke talking about Trump. And it's all you need to hear about the tenor of the early days of the Democratic primary.
President Trump, perhaps inspired by Goebbels and the propagandists of the Third Reich, seemed to employ this tactic that the bigger the lie, the more obscene the injustice, the more dizzying the pace of this bizarre behavior, the less likely we are to be able to do something about it.
Does that leave you breathless? I mean, it still does, even though I've heard it over and over again.
Tim, perhaps inspired by Adolf Hitler, Beto O'Rourke decided to denigrate somebody who wishes for more freedom for Americans.
What's your visceral feeling, Lisa, when you hear a soundbite like that accusing Donald Trump of essentially being a mass murderer?
I just can't take anybody seriously who says on national television that he's coming to take guns away from law-abiding Americans. So that, to me, tells you all you need to know about Beto.
Hell yeah, he's going to take your guns away. He said it, and that's the soundbite of the year for you, Scott. Is
gun
when
salesman of the century.
Gun salesman of the century, making Obama during his presidency looking like a piker, huh? Now, speaking of Barack, okay, as this Democratic primary got completely out of hand with talks, social justice warriors going nuts, Julian Castro at one point calling for reproductive justice for transgenders. Now, I know, Scott, I keep bringing that up, but there's the absurdity. Reproductive justice for people who can't reproduce. That's
the height of virtue signal. You have to respect it for that. That is the height. Yeah, it's actually like the best thing he could possibly say. There's no topping it, Tim.
There really isn't.
Yeah.
But in the height of all this, the 44th president of the United States, Barack Obama, acting as the adult in the room, saw all of this insanity going on in these Democratic debates, and he tried to jump to the rescue.
You know, this idea of purity and you're never compromised and you're always politically woke and all that stuff. You should get over that quickly. The world is messy. There are ambiguities.
Yep.
People who do really good stuff have flaws. That's not activism. That's not bringing about change. You know, if all you're doing is casting stones, you know, you're probably not going to get that far.
Picking up the mantle of being the adult in the room. Somebody's got to be.
I think the interesting thing about Obama is how he's been so not for Biden.
It's true. I mean, on the other hand, I will say I think that's a bit overplayed because you've got 29 people who've declared for president on the Democratic side. To pick one person, even if he was your vice president, on the other hand, it's clear from behind-the-scenes reporting that he's at a low level of enthusiasm for his former vice president.
But we know that the Dems are, I think Barack Obama does enjoy a certain amount of popularity among the American populace. And he could really be a difference maker for Joe Biden. But he is fence-sitting big time.
Well, it could be that his wife will wind up running for president here. But what about Donald Trump and his attitude about Joe Biden?
What does white privilege really look like? Weeks after Joe Biden visits China as vice president, his son secures a private billion-dollar deal with the Bank of China. After Biden is named America's top diplomat to Ukraine, his son joins Ukraine's largest private gas producer with no relevant experience and lands another million-dollar deal. And before Ukraine's top prosecutor can investigate the shady dealings of Biden's son, he gets the prosecutor fired, then brags about it.
I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting $1 billion. I said, you're not getting $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired.
Instead of another failed presidential witch hunt, House Democrats should investigate one of their own, Joe Biden. Great America PAC is responsible for the content of this message.
Joe Biden. I picked that ad partly because I love that guy's voice. He's got like 18 kahunas. But part of it, too, is because there's the whole story that Trump's going to be using against Biden going forward here in 2020.
Right, but it's funny that this is what the Democrats are accusing Donald Trump of, cronyism and this kind of stuff. And Biden is really the poster child for it.
Tim, everybody who's vetted this transaction has come to the same conclusion. There was nothing wrong. All the I's were dotted in the T's. I don't know why you keep turning back to it.
Look,
it's purely a coincidence that Mr. Biden was compensated by this Ukrainian oil concern.
Maybe Hunter Biden has some hidden experience in the oil industry or the energy industry or in Ukraine that we're not aware of.
Because he's on the board of Amtrak.
I think the Delaware's had self-serve gasoline stations for quite some time, Tim.
That's very good. Now, of course, Biden was asked to respond to this in a debate. Yes, in the one time I think he was asked by mainstream elite media reporter during a debate, Anderson Cooper sort of buttonholed him about his son.
If it's not okay for a president's family to be involved in foreign businesses, why was it okay for your son when you were vice president? Vice President Biden?
Look, my son did nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong.
Your son, Hunter, today gave an interview, admitted that he made a mistake and showed poor judgment by serving on that board in Ukraine. Did you make a mistake by letting him? You were the point person on Ukraine at the time, if you can answer.
Look, my son's statement speaks for itself. My son made a judgment. I'm proud of the judgment he made. I'm proud of what he had to say. And let's focus on this. The fact of the matter is that this is about Trump's corruption. One of the reasons I am running is because of my age and my experience. With it comes wisdom.
Wisdom. That's Joe Biden. First thing you think of when you think of Joe Biden is wisdom, and that he's proud of his son's ill-gotten gains.
I just want to say that's a bunch of malarkey.
let's just talk
Tim,
about that.
What
for 1
father
second.
wouldn't be proud of a son who got such a high income, work from home, and yet can make millions of dollars?
You can make millions of dollars
for real.
without leaving your living room.
It's an estimable achievement.
First, have your father become vice president. Then, very simple.
Right.
Does Michael Bloomberg have a chance at this? Because it just seems like, Biden is at the top, but it's by default. Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders are way over on the left. Pete Buttigieg is like 18 years old. Does Michael Bloomberg have a chance in this?
You mean the local official?
Oh, yeah, the Pete Buttigieg. That was one of my favorite things from the last debate where Buttigieg was criticizing the senators on the stage, Klobuchar and
Right.
Sanders and Warren, and Klobuchar said, you should respect the 100 years of experience on this stage. I don't criticize your record as a local official. He just such a put down.
Right.
It was just. So where were we? We were talking about whether Michael Bloomberg really has a chance. Scott, what do you think?
Michael Bloomberg has shown that he will commit whatever resources are necessary to see that his will is enforced. And he got the law changed in New York to get a third term as mayor because he wanted one. And I see no reason why, when his fortunes applied to becoming president of the United States, that won't give him a fighter's chance. Whether it means victory or not is another question. But
Yeah, I don't know what to say about Bloomberg. He seems to me like a classic controller-in-chief, He's got to control everybody's sodas and everything.
And their guns. It's gotten so bad, ladies and gentlemen, that a certain candidate's actually still considering getting in.
As I say, never say never. And I will certainly tell you, I'm under enormous pressure from many, many, many people to think about it.
Enormous pressure, Hillary. Would she do it again?
that's what she just said. Why would she be talking about the enormous pressure that she's under?
Is she going to run? Is she going to run or not?
She's going to try to get drafted. That's her pathway to success.
She's going to be the candidate everybody can consolidate their support around after the first
Instead
ballot.
of being the one that was shoved down everybody's throat like she was last cycle, she'll be the white knight, if we can still say that, okay? And she'll come in and save the day.
You can't say that, Scott.
No, I do not think she will run. I do not.